Hello everyone, this is Screen Recapped, and today we will be talking about a 1999 American magical realism drama film called The Green Mile. Be ready for spoilers ahead! At a Louisiana assisted living home in 1999, elderly retiree Paul Edgecombe becomes emotional while viewing the film Top Hat. His companion Elaine becomes concerned, and Paul explains to her that the film reminded him of events that he witnessed when he was an officer at Cold Mountain Penitentiary's death row, nicknamed the Green Mile. In 1935, Paul supervises corrections officers Brutus Brutal Howell, Dean Stanton, Harry Terwilliger, and Percy Wetmore, reporting to Chief Warden Hal Moores. Paul is introduced to John Coffey, a physically imposing but mild-mannered African-American man sentenced to death after being convicted of raping and murdering two young white girls. He joins two other condemned convicts on the block, Edward Delacroix and Arlen Bitterbuck, the latter of whom is the first to be executed. Percy, the nephew of the state governor's wife, demonstrates a sadistic streak but flaunts his family connections to avoid being held accountable. He is particularly abusive towards Del, breaking his fingers and killing his pet mouse Mr. Jingles. After John heals Paul's severe bladder infection by touching him and later resurrects Mr. Jingles, Paul gradually realizes that John possesses a supernatural ability to heal others. Suspecting that John is endowed with the power to perform divine miracles, Paul doubts whether he is truly guilty of his crimes. Meanwhile, the officers are forced to deal with psychotic new inmate William Wild Bill Wharton, who frequently causes trouble by assaulting the officers and racially abusing John, forcing them to restrain him in the block's padded cell on more than one occasion. In exchange for resigning from the penitentiary and accepting a job at an insane asylum, Percy is allowed to oversee Del's execution. At the execution, Percy deliberately avoids soaking the sponge used to conduct electricity to Del's head, leading to Del suffering a gruesome and agonizing death, with John forced to feel Del's pain as well. Paul and the other officers bind and gag Percy as punishment for his actions and force him to spend a night in the padded cell. While Percy is locked away, they secretly smuggle John out of the prison so that he can use his powers to heal Warden Moore's wife Melinda of a brain tumor, saving her life. After Percy is released from the padded room, the others threaten to report him for his various acts of misconduct if his behavior continues. Later, John uses his powers to release Melinda's affliction into Percy's brain, causing Percy to shoot Wild Bill to death. Shortly after, John reveals to Paul that Wild Bill was the true culprit of the crimes for which he was wrongfully condemned, releasing his supernatural energy into Paul in the process. Having suffered a mental breakdown, Percy is committed to the same insane asylum where he had planned to work after resigning from the prison. Finally realizing that John is innocent, Paul is distraught at the thought of executing him, and offers to let him go free. John tells Paul that the execution would be an act of mercy, as he views the world as a cruel place, and is in constant pain from the suffering that people inflict upon each other. Mentioning that he has never seen a movie before, John watches Top Hat with the other officers as a last request. When executed later that night, he asks not to have a hood placed over his head, as he is afraid of the dark. The officers all watch in sadness, visibly holding back tears as Coffey is executed. Back in the present, Paul tells Elaine that John's was the last execution that he and Brutal witnessed, as they both subsequently resigned from the prison and took jobs in the juvenile system. Concluding his story, Paul reveals that Del's mouse Mr. Jingles is still alive, having been blessed with a supernaturally long life thanks to John's healing touch. He also reveals that he himself is now 108 years old, having been 44 at the time of John's execution. While Elaine sees Paul's long life as another of John's miracles, Paul speculates that it may be a divine punishment and that he has been condemned to linger on Earth and outlive all of his loved ones for killing John. Paul is later shown attending Elaine's funeral, and muses on how much longer he is left to live. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.